Good morning, dear Jan Marian. My name is Daria Lazareva. I am the head of marketing in organization Generation for Ukraine. And today we together to talk a little bit about the disinformation. And from my side, I will introduce a little bit about our organization, so you will be familiar with it. We are from organization Generation for Ukraine, and we are trying to integrate Ukrainian youth in the Czech Republic. And specifically, now we are working on one project, which is in the frame of Europe and supported by Horizon Europe. This project aims to raise awareness about the disinformation in the Czech Republic and generally in democratic societies. So today we are in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and we have you, Mr. Jan Marian. So would you like to introduce yourself for our viewers?
Thank you, and thank you for coming to the Foreign Ministry. I'm Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Czechia, and my portfolio includes Eastern policy, including issues related to Ukraine or Moldova, but also the Russia policy review, which is about cleaning the desk from the Russian influence in Czechia. My portfolio also includes, for instance, cooperation with Globsec here in Prague, but also public diplomacy, which is about our national branding project, the visual identity of the government, or promoting the short name Czechia. And thank you for coming once again.
Thank you that you agreed. It's really important to us. If you're okay with that, we could move to our questions. So first one, how do you think? What are the key channels for Russia to spread disinformation in Czech Republic?
Well, I think first we definitely see Russian disinformation being spread. We are influenced by operations originating from Russia, and these campaigns or incidents are not isolated, so that's part of a broader hybrid warfare strategy, which targets democratic institutions, public trust, cohesion of the society of Czechia. As to the channels, I think I would obviously highlight social media or alternative media, but also Telegram channels, and I would say that in each and every country, our adversaries use the channels that are most typical for this or that country. I think in the Czech case, it's also about using the so-called chain emails for spreading information. And of course, we see that the Russian state media is part of this operation. This is why we have taken several steps, both on the level of Czechia, but also on the EU level, as to sanctioning them, especially after the Russian aggression against Ukraine back in 2022.
And do you find yourself that strategy is successful, like after whole invasion to Ukraine?
You mean whether it has impact on Czechia?
Yeah.
I would say that we definitely see some impact. At the same time, Russian behavior after what happened in Georgia back in 2008, after what happened in Ukraine in 2014, and especially now after 2022 has helped to raise awareness, about the threats we face. This can be seen both on the level of the society, but also on the political level. So Russian behavior has pushed us into doing many things that we had to do, and we should have done them before this. It also helped, I think, to mobilize the institutions, the state institutions, the public institutions, but also the civil society. And I would add that cooperation between the government, experts, and the civil society is vital, not only for the Czech Foreign Ministry, but also for the government as such.
Okay, I see. And can you describe a case where your institution had to respond to disinformation?
What we try to do is to promote our values, our approaches, and the main goal is positive strategic communications, long-term positive strategic communications. But sometimes also we have to react, especially in cases where we face, for instance, cyber threats. So we have to attribute these. So sometimes the state has to react and, so to say, name and shame. So this is what we sometimes do with regard to Russia, but also with regard to China. And as to our reactions, first, I would say that we react publicly, but this is not only about communications. This is also about the deeds, the steps. The question is whether you have to debunk what has been said, or you have to be proactive and inform in advance. But among the tools we have at our disposal, we don't have only communications. We also have some more tools. For instance, the sanctions. This government has approved the national Magnitsky law, which we use for targeting people and institutions who operate against the interest of Czechia or our security, including this recent case of Voice of Europe. So sanctions is one of our tools. The other tool is also taking steps against other forms of Russian malign influence. This is what was done already by the previous government, for instance, after the Vrbětice case. So we basically expelled most of the Russian diplomats from Czechia. So now we have only 7 Russian diplomats in Czechia and 7 Russian diplomats in Moscow. And after the second Russian aggression, we also closed the consulates general. And then we are looking into other issues, such as, for instance, Russian state properties in Czechia, or we promote EU-level solutions, such as the well-known Czech proposal to limit the travels of Schengen within Schengen for the Russian diplomats.
So I think you have responded to our third question, like what mechanism do you use to respond to propaganda? So as I understood from your point of view, the best way is to limit the influence of Russians thanks to sanctions, for example, and to restriction to move Russians, for example, to Czechia.
If I may come back to the Voice of Europe operation, which was a huge success, and it was an international operation, not only a Czech operation. So we reacted to information campaign orchestrated by Russia, and we took the necessary steps first on the level of national Czech sanctions, but also then on the EU level. What we try to do is to promote our proposals for sanctions on the EU level. In case this is not feasible, we use the national Magnitsky law.
To sum up, what mechanism do you use to respond to propaganda?
As I mentioned, first we try to have positive long-term campaigns aimed at promoting our values, our institutions, important anniversaries, also, for instance, working with the archives of the foreign ministry, which is very useful also in terms of looking back at events like the 1968 occupation of Czechoslovakia. And then, of course, we use our strategic communications for promoting the services that this ministry provides to the people, which is about helping Czech citizens abroad, promoting Czech companies, or promoting what the foreign ministry is doing for the Czech citizens. This is also why Czech diplomats go to schools and other institutions, organize debates with citizens. We simply believe that we have to promote what we do, because I mean it's the taxpayers who are our clients. And then, of course, sometimes we have to react, which means that if, for instance, we face this cyber operation orchestrated by China, so we had to take the measures, the necessary measures, but also name the perpetrator.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate what you do. I hope all institutions would do that in the same way.
If I may, I would argue that more can be done, but my feeling is that this ministry has done a lot under the current government, because we have the unit for strategic communications. It wasn't the case 5 years ago. Most of our embassies use the social media. We work through the social media, and I think this has improved a lot.
Yeah, I remember you told that not all help to Ukraine are mentioned in public. So I think that shows the situation of Czech support to Ukraine.
I think the credit goes to many Czech, both government institutions and the civil society. That's for sure. And there are many things we do. I mean, Czechia does to help Ukraine, which are not public. Then we also have the success story as to people coming from Ukraine, and we have been able to provide them with assistance. And as you well know, now the Czech economy and labor market is benefiting from the stay of Ukrainians in Czechia. So I think we are among the leaders. We are part of the coalition of the willing. As to the strategic communications, more should be done on the national or on the government level, but I would say that the foreign ministry is among the leaders in terms of strategic communications and public diplomacy these days.
Yeah, as Ukrainian refugee, I couldn't not agree with your words. But talking about, for example, limits of restrictions of disinformation, how to avoid allowance of free speech and not mixing it with restriction of disinformation?
That's the good question, but I think you have to operate within the current legislation and the rule of law. So we have some European values, free speech is among them, but I think as we say these days, freedom of speech is not the same as the freedom of reach. So I think the debate on the algorithms, for instance, of the social media is fully legitimate. This is not about limiting the free speech. As you know, the European approach is very much about the free speech, but then you can have some limitations in accordance with the legislation in order to protect the democratic institutions, for instance. So I am not an expert, but I would say that basically we have the values, we have the legal framework, but one thing is freedom of speech, which is necessary. The other thing is facing malign influence operations orchestrated from abroad. I think these days the understanding in the European Union is that, for instance, the so-called Russian state media are not media per se. These are tools of propaganda.
You have mentioned a lot, not only your institution, but a lot like European Union in general, or different NGOs, or as you work in Человек в Тисне. And how do you think, which partnerships are most helpful in fighting with disinformation?
Maybe coming back to the EU level, Czechia has been among those promoting back in 2014-15 the establishment of the Stratcom task force within the EAS, within the European Diplomatic Service. At that time, I remember vividly these debates. Many colleagues from other member states would argue at that time that it is not our role, it is not the role of European diplomacy to say that Russia is lying. But this has changed because of the Russian behavior, because of what happened in Ukraine, what happened here in Verbětice, what's happening vis-à-vis Moldova, for instance. I think partnerships are vital. So we work within many partners and colleagues within the EU and NATO, with some like-minded countries, in order to exchange best practices, the know-how. We work closely with Moldova, for instance, which is also facing general elections. And we also work with many like-minded partners outside of the EU. For instance, also with the UK. So here we have to learn from each other.
I think that's quite interesting. Thank you. I know that in 2018-2022, you coordinated the counter-disinformation agenda. How do you think, what concrete measures proved most effective in fighting the disinformation?
Well, this was a totally different time. Not much was happening on this at that time. I would say that back at that time, For instance, the Center Against Hybrid Threats within the Interior Ministry was among the few that raised this issue. I was trying here within the ministry to somehow move forward, so we prepared some proposals. And I have to say that when the current government came, those have been mostly, or all of them have been taken on board in terms of being more active in the social media, having a dedicated team, promoting our values, having some information campaign, having our own production capacity. So this has materialized. So we've been very active on the EU level even before, but what I'm happy about is that those ideas that we worked on here 5 years ago happened or materialized.
And did it change in terms with your current position? Like, which lessons have you learned during this period?
As I said, I think I would, since I attend many international meetings, I would argue that the level of awareness and understanding has changed a lot. And this is also about concrete steps or deeds, because I remember well 5-10 years ago, the offer for Ukraine on the side of the EU, this was only about the association agreement, about closer trade cooperation, not about the integration. After the second Russian aggression, the EU came with the offer for Ukraine to join the EU. So Russia's behavior has mobilized us a lot. I've seen many things being done on the domestic level, but still I would say more has to be done.
Now we are close to the parliamentary elections, and I think we can see influence of Russian propaganda even more. How do you expect foreign actors like Russia adapt their propaganda to exploit the campaign environment?
I think first, yes, we will face elections, but we will face also elections in Moldova 1 week before the Czech elections. So it's really important for us to follow the situation in Moldova, but not only in Moldova, definitely. Second, I would also refer to the public reports or annual reports of the Czech counterintelligence, which has been very vocal as to the issues or tools or behavior by Russia, but not only by Russia. And I think as to our situation here, Russia would use any domestic issues or cleavages in each and every European or NATO country. In our case, I think the narratives are often about undermining Ukraine, its statehood, its nation, its leadership, the legitimacy of the current government of President Zelensky. So that's one point, the statehood of Ukraine. Then it's about the refugees from Ukraine very often, whether they contribute or not, trying to play Czechs against Ukrainians. And of course, Russia would work with any topic that's relevant, that's useful in order to split the EU members or the NATO members. Then it's about promoting Russia as someone who wants peace, or someone that is the guardian of the real European values or conservative values. And then it's about anti-NATO, anti-West. NATO as a threat, West as someone who is in decay, who faces domestic problems.
Yeah.
And then, of course, and we have seen this many times, just spread many narratives, just to make sure that people don't believe in anything. So you might spread many narratives. We've seen this with MH17, for instance. So push people into not believing basically anything, and of course promote distrust in the Czech state, Czech institutions, Czech justice, and also, last but not least, the Czech public media, or also the civil society.
From your point of view, what socio-political vulnerabilities are most effectively leveraged by malign actors in the Czech Republic?
I would say that Russia would use anything, be it social issues, be it some historical issues, be it real problems in the society, be it fears of the people, be it the general willingness of all of us to see peace instead of war. But first, this is about the government policies. So it's about facing the real issues that any society has. Not to mention the Russian society, which has many issues. And then it's about shifting from reactive policies or communications to proactive. So this is about maybe pre-bunking. This is about raising awareness. This is about promoting our joint Czech values. And this is maybe about some kind of disinformation vaccination, so that you are informed in advance that yes, there might be Russian disinformation, so be aware. And it's about strong institutions and the civil society and the independent media.
And from your point of view, do Czechia have any specific lessons that could teach other Central Eastern European countries in fighting with disinformation?
I would say that as to our experience, we know that humor works a lot in Czechia. You will see some of our production here. You will see the pro-Kremlin fairy tales that was very successful. We are very proud about this. But in general, in this country, where the most famous Czech is Jara Zimmerman, who is a non-existent person, I would say that humor works a lot. It's about the protection of the institutions or elections. It's about humor. It's about our storytelling. By the way, we have this new project, Good Morning Czechia, which is about discussing our values with the citizens, with the government, within public and expert events. This is something we have together with Czech NGOs, Czech businesses. So it's about the homeworks. It's about like looking for remaining vulnerabilities, protecting the institutions, and possibly limiting Russian influence across Europe.
Dobré ráno, Česko, it's like a podcast? Or?
No, Dobré ráno, Česko, Good Morning Czechia is a online project, www.dobréranočesko.cz, which is about asking the Czech citizens, what would you say about the Czech values? Who are we?
Okay.
How are we perceived? And how should be Czechia perceived? Is this a country of castles? Is this a country of beer? Is this a country of nanotechnologies, high-tech industry, etc.? And the idea is to have citizens on board, experts on board, and one day, maybe next year, to have a joint understanding, a joint brand, maybe a joint logo to be used for public diplomacy, tourism, marketing of the country.
Okay. I have read that Czechia has the best humor in the world.
Yeah, that's. We also follow these lists and rankings, so I hope it's the case. But I think there are many other partners in the EU with good sense of humor. Sometimes maybe a dry humor, but yes, I would say humor works in general.
I think we could finish on this positive point. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today with us, Deputy Foreign Minister Jan Marian.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming.